Kim Davis was put in jail for breaking a law that hadn't been written yet. This is the CitizenLink report. I'm Stuart Shepard, along with Bruce Hausknecht, who's a judicial analyst for Focus on the Family. Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Stuart.
Now, we have to share with you, as we're recording this, we're getting the news that Davis has been ordered to be released from jail by the judge. However, the things we're about to talk about are all still true. First, Bruce, I think a clarifying question for this whole thing is, for anyone who's on the other side of this issue, what Kentucky statute did Kim Davis break?
Well, none, actually. What she broke was a federal judge's order that she do a certain act, i.e., issue those same-sex marriage licenses. There's no law in Kentucky at the moment that says same-sex marriage is the law of Kentucky. All there is a federal judge's interpretation of what the Supreme Court did back in June.
Which it highlights another fact, and that is there is no federal statute either, no federal law in place to direct her to do this.
That's exactly right. We are just talking about one federal judge.
Now, the folks from the other side will say, well, the Supreme Court has ruled on this, so instantly everybody should fall in line and then act in the way that I envision them acting. Tell us what's wrong with that.
Well, that's the problem whenever the Supreme Court legislates from the bench, which is what they did in this particular instance. If this had been left to the democratic process, you would have had legislatures perhaps choosing same-sex marriage, others not. The ones that did would also include religious freedom protections. It would have all been sorted out and everyone protected all at once. But in essence, what we have is a one-sentence order. You will all obey the new same-sex marriage law, no matter what it does to your religious freedom.
Now, something that this highlights from the Supreme Court decision is this. They put in there something that was meant to give the appearance of a protection for religious freedom, but when the rubber met the road, they're saying, no, you got to issue these licenses.
Well, yes, that's true. Justice Kennedy tried to include in the majority opinion that, yes, you're free to think about, teach, and advocate for one-man, one-woman marriage, but in this case, when it came down to a person's religious conscience, what the law is now telling her via a federal judge is that, I'm sorry, but this doesn't count as either of those teaching or advocating. This is the domain of where federal courts rule.
Now, just trying to understand this, the president of the Kentucky Senate sent a brief to the judge saying, under the Supreme Court decision, there currently is no statutory definition of marriage in Kentucky, or in most all other states at this point for that matter. Where does that leave us? What does that mean? Does that mean 7 people could walk in and say, we want to get married today?
You know, that's an interesting question because it very well might happen. But what some judge will say is, no, of course not. All it means is that all of Kentucky's laws are amended because of the Supreme Court order to include same-sex couples. So there's a lot of implied lawmaking with what the Supreme Court did.
But that lawmaking actually needs to take place for this to be done in the proper way under the U.S. system of government.
Well, that's the way the democracy works, except when judges start legislating from the bench. Then we get into these gray areas of what does this really mean?
What can American Christians learn from what's happening in Kentucky and what's on the precipice of happening all across the country?
Well, this is the first Christian to go to jail after the Supreme Court decision in June for her beliefs about marriage. This is the first in what could be future incarcerations of Christians. Christians need to wake up in this country, get involved in the law and the lawmaking in their state, demand protections for people like Kim Davis and others in their state who will be exposed to these types of actions in court rulings and federal judges. So they need to get involved because unless they do, their religious freedom will be taken away from them bit by bit.
Very helpful. Bruce, thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.
We encourage you to pray for Kim Davis. She may be released from jail sometime today, again, as we record this, but the judge is still saying comply or resign. So things really haven't changed much except the geography of this. So remember to pray for her peace of mind, and for wisdom as she presses forward through this situation. And remember, if you'd like to support religious freedom, we'd also invite you to support CitizenLink and the work we do here. And remember, stand tall and be heard.